Break it down now.
For over a decade, this actually predates the Megapod. I think I've said this before. In terms of Beating the Book podcast series, even before the Megapod, we did these derivative shows, and I always did them with this guy right here, and he's still doing it with me after all these years. Basewinner at Basewinner, Basewinner.com. He's got his own Bet US show now. It's Mark Borchard, everybody, from an undisclosed location somewhere in the desert. What's happening, man?
Yeah, Gill, it's been well over a decade. I think it's almost been closer to 2 decades. It's funny how the time just kind of sneaks up on you. You know, I remember the Indians and the Cubs World Series. What an epic World Series! But that was almost 10 years ago. That's hard to believe.
We did it. We've done it for a decade and a half. You're right. And you say that about the Cubs World Series. You know what trips me out? And by the way, the pandemic is what always jacks up my perception of time. The fact that the Giants won the last of those 3 World Series over a decade ago completely boggles my mind. Like the fact that much time has passed since then, the way that you mark time with baseball, I cannot process it that way. But that's the truth.
No, I'm with you. When Kansas City was good, it doesn't seem like that long ago. I was comparing a pitcher to Josh Tomlin the other day. It just doesn't seem like that long. Do you remember Josh Tomlin?
Oh my God, he was a sabermetric all-star 1 year or 2, if I recall.
He might have been likely to regress. No, I remember.
Yes.
Like everybody wanted this guy to bet against this guy, but he was one of those guys that he had really good command, and so he wouldn't get a lot of strikeouts, and people would hit him hard, but he had really good locations. So he was one of the guys that I liked betting on. Similar to bring it back to modern day, similar to Ryan Nelson of the Diamondbacks. You just look at his line; it's nothing special. 4-1, 5-1, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, and you're thinking, you watch him pitch, and he gets hit pretty hard. But that's what kind of got me to thinking about Josh Tomlin. Then I started thinking about that World Series and how good it was, and then I started thinking, gosh, that was a while ago. We're getting up there, Gill.
Well, we had a lot of those. We also did those podcasts at like the 100-game mark, and then during the All-Star break, which we would call the sabermetric All-Stars, pitchers that were likely to regress either positively or negatively. Tomlin was one of them, I remember, through the years. Derek Lowe was another one we seized on, and we would win bets based on this stuff. Who was the guy, and we'll get into the 2025 QT here momentarily, who was the guy who was sort of a portly pitcher, played for the A's at the time? I want to say his name was Trevor, was his first name?
Cahill. Trevor Cahill.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was one of those. Trevor Cahill was another one of those, man. Oh, man. So random baseball.
I liked doing those shows. They were really fun, but it was different back then. Yes. Derek Lowe, I remember they kept him. They just threw him out there, and he was awful. And you could make money betting against a guy like that. Nowadays, if they're bad, they're going on the show. They're going to go on the injured list. Gill, kind of like Sasaki with the Dodgers. I mean, we haven't really heard about him, right? So. Yeah. But back in the day, I guess maybe unless you're the Rockies, because they keep sending Senzatella out there every time, and I don't know why.
I have a feeling he might come up on this show. By the way, we're talking about a time in baseball handicapping. We're sounding like we're 1,000 years old. 15 years ago, where you could beat baseball because most people weren't on Fangraphs. We were. Most people didn't know what fielding independent pitching was. We did. Obviously, everybody knows all that stuff now, so you have to find edges elsewhere. What we do on this show is we go through, we go through some stats that are, some are widely available, then we narrow it down to the more proprietary stuff, 5 innings, first innings, and we just sort of tell you what the numbers are, and we have to sort of determine, is that just narrative that's unlikely to be sustainable, or is it predictive in some form? And so we'll do that. As we do every time, Mark. We'll talk about umpires because Mark has historical umpire stats. Let's just start with the broadest of the broad, which we like to do, which is here we are. And again, we're just past the midway point of the Major League Baseball season, obviously less than 2 weeks away from the All-Star break. But every team has now played 80 games, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, they all played 81 in the halfway mark. The most profitable team in baseball, to me, is a shocker. Like, if I hadn't seen this, I wouldn't believe this. And this is a bizarro exercise. If you bet this team every game, I know nobody does, but let's say you did as a favorite or a dog, doesn't matter, every single game this year. This is percovers.com, these stats. Who do you have as the most profitable team in baseball, that bizarro exercise, Mark?
Well, this is from Killer Sports, and every time I do this show, I want to give a shout out to Killer Sports and Carl Sack. It's
Yes.
really a nice product, and it's $39 a month, and it's well worth the price. And I always want to pat a fellow handicapper on the back if I can. It's a competitive industry, Gil, and sometimes it's a contentious one, and I'm sure you've experienced some of that. But
No.
he's done a really good job putting this together. So anyway, this is where mine come from, but I think I know where you're going. So
you're referring
number one
by the way, you're referring to the Carl Sack, who is a great NBA handicapper in his own right, but is behind Killer Sports. I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's spectacular, and when you put together your own stuff and spend thousands of hours, and so when somebody puts together something that you find really, like I've been doing this, Gil, 25 years, like you say, it's dramatic, but half your adult life, Basewinner, but it's true, and so when somebody puts out this, I always want to speak out that how good this is anyway, that the best team in baseball from a profit standpoint, according to Killer Sports, is the Detroit Tigers. But I think I know where you're going to go with your cover stuff.
Yeah, it is. The reason that Killer Sports might have one team atop and someone like Covers might have someone else, they're not going to be that far off. But it really does come down to, are they doing it by closing line? Are they doing it by opening line? Which book are they doing it by? Detroit is fourth per Covers. Number one is the Los Angeles Angels, which, I mean, if you bet them every single game this year, either as a favorite or dog, doesn't matter, you'd be up 12.25 units, 12 and a quarter units roughly on the Angels. And they have Houston second, the Marlins third, and the Tigers fourth. Now, again, why you see that kind of thing, for those who are listening for the first time again or are new to betting or newish to betting, the Angels and Marlins, first and third, are going to be underdogs and sizable ones in many games. And if they win those, obviously, those numbers are going to jump up for them, are going to spike their numbers. And so that's why you see the likes of the Angels and Marlins there. But I would not have guessed the Angels. I really wouldn't have.
No, they're third. So Killer Sports best Tigers plus 13.2 units, then Astros 9.9, and then Angels 8.66. So maybe maybe he's doing like a risk to win or something. So and the other one's like you're getting paid better, I think, on the underdog play. But yeah, they're all up there.
Yeah, almost all of that from the Angels is in away games, by the way, where they're 22 and 22 on the road. The number one home team is the Astros, which Covers has as the second best overall, but they're first in terms of being a home team. Marlins are second best on the road. I bet we can come to agreement, both Killer Sports and Covers, on who the worst team is, though, because this is worst by a mile. The Colorado Rockies, followed by the Atlanta Braves, then the White Sox and Orioles. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you got?
Yeah, that's it. No, it's Rockies worst, Braves second worst, Orioles third worst, White Sox fourth worst. So
first and second are the same. And obviously Colorado, as bad as they are, they're only 19 and 66. So you only win 19 games. You're only going to get so many in the positive column of that net. And then Atlanta, because they've been favorites in so many of these games, and they're 8 games below 500, right? They're 38 and 46. So 20 units down on the Braves. And the question becomes, by the way, the Rockies are by far the worst team in terms of home games. Almost 20 of those units are at Coors. The worst road team in terms of just, again, the bizarro exercise of betting them every game is the White Sox. But interestingly, Covers has the San Francisco Giants as the second worst away team. Do I have that correct? Let me see. Maybe I'm making that up. No, that's a different category. They actually have the White Sox the worst, followed closely by the Braves as the worst away teams. I guess what I would ask you, Mark, is, okay, that's fun and that's all fine. Do you think any of that continues? Like, are the Braves likely to continue to suck money out of bettors' bank accounts? Are the Angels and Marlins likely to continue to be sneaky profitable?
It's a really good question. And I think that one of the things that you've been doing successfully over the last 2 years, I guess, is the monthly betting. And I was interested to kind of put together what, from a metric standpoint, what team was was the best in the month of June, and and what I use is I use BBK for pitching, so that's just walks divided by strikeouts, and then weighted runs created plus for offense. And so then I get a combined rank. So from a metric standpoint, believe it or not, Baltimore they were 16 and 11 which is surprising enough since they're down on the bottom. They actually had the best metrics from that standpoint. But what I wanted to get to was the Angels. The Angels 15 and 11, but they're kind of middle of the pack in June. So I don't think that Angels is sustainable, and I think the Braves will probably be better than most. But it for me. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting up there in years, Gil, but I don't think so. I think I still have some of the same capacity that I used to have, but there's just so much on a daily basis. I'm kind of looking to do something maybe a little bit longer term, which I really love about those the monthly bets. But the problem with that is, I mean, if your team has 3 bad games, you lose that bet. So I'm almost looking for something to do, like, for example, we like Seattle this month, the month of July. We both do. But they lose yesterday, so that kind of hurts their chances. But I think that it would behoove me, at least, to do more research on maybe making some more long-term positions. And you can do that. Just say, hey, okay, I think the Angels are going to regress. I'm going to bet against them every day this month, and just see how that goes. So I think that there's some utility there, and I also think that it's from a standpoint of keeping your bandwidth, like not exceeding your bandwidth, is something that I think, for me at least, I'm going to look at, Gil.
By the way, you were on the radio side yesterday on a numbers game on VSiN, which you're kind enough to do weekly. And by the way, when is the Bet US show for everybody who wants to hear it? Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
It is 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Is it still PST? I don't know if they took out the standard. It's PT now.
Oh, is it PT? Okay.
Anyway, 8 o'clock on the Pacific Standard Time for us old timers. No, because it used to be EST, and now I think it's just ET.
Well, you were good enough to come on yesterday, and we were going through your best division bets. And correct me if I'm wrong. Yankees to win the AL East at current price, you say is still value.
Yeah, that was a good play.
Yeah, because a lot of people, because obviously it's a tight division right now. People are kind of down on the Yankees. Rays had a great month of June, so people are thinking, but you still find value on the Yankees. The Mariners are
based.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Based on the advanced numbers. So what I do, I'm not pulling this stuff out of my ass. I just want people to know that but it's
good to know.
So I look at the last 500 plate appearances for the composition of the lineup. So 9 guys, last 500 plate appearances. If they don't have 500 plate appearances, I think the standard's like 300. If they have 300, then it goes in. If not, then I use a steamer projection. And then for the pitching, I use a median of the last 17 games for the starters. And then for the relievers, I'm looking at the last 150 plate appearances for walks, last 150 plate appearances for strikeouts, last 300 for walk percentage. So they're metrics that are, I think, usable metrics. And then I run the simulations, and for the Yankees, I have them winning that division 85% of the time based on that. So I think that's really, I think it's a value. I mean, and you just kind of think about that, Fried, Rodon, Judge, and I we talked a couple weeks ago about, Judge, not getting the MVP, and I thought that was heresy. But I think he's going to do it. So yeah.
I agree. Cal Raleigh hit a few homers. He's they even on mainstream media showed up like a Bonds versus Raleigh graphic, and I'm like, okay, easy. And I'm like, Judge is still dwarfing him in the slash line numbers of batting average, OBP, and slugging. What would it take for Cal Raleigh to beat Aaron Judge for MVP? It would take Cal Raleigh hitting 65 homers and Judge hitting 49, like getting hurt and only hitting 49. Other than that, I don't see any chance in it. But you also like the Mariners, I think, a bit of value depending on the price in the AL West.
I had them 33%. So that anything that you're getting plus 200 or more is good. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm trying to think what were the other ones we talked about. Was that it for divisions, or was there one other?
Well, I think the Cubs would be
Right.
valuable. I don't know what the pricing is right now, but the Cubs, I like that team. They're 88%, so I'd imagine that you could get a price that's better than that.
Okay.
So.
Back to the stats of Q2. And then there's the run line, right? Again, same bizarro exercise. We're just trying to figure out if there's some predictive nature to this. You bet a team on the run line as a favorite. You're given a run and a half. As a dog, you're getting a run and a half. So 1-run losses affect this, obviously. The best run line team in baseball, again, if you bet them every single game, whether a dog or a favorite, is who do you got over there at Killer Sports?
It's showing the Blue Jays.
The covers is showing the Blue Jays as well. Over 10 units. And by the way, no one is even half as good on the run line as the Blue Jays are per covers. The worst is still the Rockies. You'd be down 17 units plus betting the Rockies on the run line. By the way, if you're betting the Rockies every game in any way, you're probably doing this wrong. We just want to suggest that. This is where the Giants are the second worst per covers. The Giants on the run line, you'd have lost over 15 units. I was sort of surprised by that, even though they're playing terribly right now.
Yeah, the Giants, they're down there. They're like fifth worst with the Braves. You know what's interesting on this, and I think it just goes to show you that there's a disparity when you play the run line. You just basically can't get as good a price as if you play the money line. And that, of course, if you shop these things, you probably do a little bit better. But only 6 teams are profitable. So 24 teams are non-profitable versus the run line as opposed to 6. So that just goes to show you how hard it is to beat the sport sometimes. And
how many did you have as profitable? That's interesting. How many?
I have 6 teams as profitable. I have Blue Jays, Tigers, White Sox, Marlins, Rays, and Padres.
They have a few more than those, but it's still less than half the teams. By the way, you know where we're really going to see that? How few teams are profitable is when we get to first 5 innings. It's never 10. It's always a handful and change when you get to profitable in terms of first 5. And that has to do with the straddle too, right? The pricing on
Exactly.
It. Yeah.
Exactly. That's 100% true is the straddle. And I know, Bill, and I talk about handicappers who I respect. And I think that there's very few. I mean, many are called, but few are chosen. I think Bill Krakenberger is one of the chosen ones where he can make a living, a good living doing this. And, he sees both sides. But when he came on your show the other day and said, hey, the lines here in Vegas, he can't get a dime line in Vegas. I thought that, come on. They can still make money and do it,
Yeah, you can't get a dime line in Vegas anymore. The last great dime line was at the South Point, where my mishpucha, Chrissy, is in charge there. But that was from above him. That was not his choice, believe me. So
yeah. No. We definitely want to back him up. I worked with Chris for a few years. He's a great guy, so I know that's not coming from him. But it's all corporate. It's corporate there. It's corporate, on the legal books here. And I almost don't blame the books, Gil, if it's a supply and demand thing. If people want to bet this and they're doing it and they're making money on it, well, then they're going to, if they don't have to charge dime lines, they won't. And I kind of like from a business standpoint, I get it from there. From a handicapper standpoint, it really sucks.
I will tell you this, just in terms of the question of what of those run lines is sustainable. I don't know if the Blue Jays being the best run line team is, but I think the Giants being really bad at the run line kind of makes sense to me intuitively. In other words, like they've got really good starting pitching. They've got a good bullpen. But that offense, even with Devers, is kind of hit or miss. So I can see them being the kind of team that, loses loses big, but wins their share of close games, if that makes sense. So that
particularly as a favorite, the run line as a favorite. Yeah,
correct. That's right.
Winning a lot of 1-run games, which happens there. I wanted to say Candlestick Park, but it's not Candlestick Park anymore, Basewinner. It hasn't been Candlestick Park for a while. But anyway, I think it's Oracle. They've changed the name so many times, but I think it's still Oracle. And it really lends itself, the park factors, to 1-run games. So I would agree with you on that.
Giants' 1-run record to date is 19-16, so it's not as if it's a bad 1-run record, but I can see that continuing. Okay, so let's go to this is even more bizarro exercise. This is if you back this particular pitcher every single game of every start, right? Every time they started on the hill for a particular team, who's the most profitable in all of baseball? And according to covers, it is Quantrill of the Marlins. even though you'd only be 9-7 on the Marlins in games that he started, you'd be up almost 9 units on him. It's followed by Job of the Tigers, Robbie Ray of the Giants is in there as well, and then Griffin Canning, poor dude with the Achilles now. He was the 4th most profitable. I want to mention this name in 5th because he might come up again. Shane Baz of the Tampa Bay Rays. If you had backed him in all 17 of his starts thus far this year, the Rays have gone 12-5 in those starts. You'd be up almost 7 units. He's in 5th. So Shane Baz.
Interesting. You know who I have, and I'm really, when I'm looking at this, I'm pretty upset with myself. Sonny Gray, 13-3 in the 16 games he started.
Sonny Gray,
I guess you could say his stuff is really hypnotizing teams, Gill.
6th on the covers board. I see what you're doing. Would you like to explain what you mean by that? Yes, or how that comes down?
So I sometimes will do when I'm compelled to do a rap on Fridays on the Bet US
compelled,
show.
As if we force him.
And one of the raps I did was, so Biggie hypnotized me, the song Biggie, can't you see?
Yes.
So it's sunny, 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 can't you see the pitches you throw hypnotize teams? And I just love your strikeout rate. Gonna bet on you when gonna get paid. And I thought that was one of my the lyrics on that were good. That's a really hard one to rap, but I've done it a couple times on the show.
Do you think the YouTube TV folks who are watching this are like, this is groundbreaking stuff that's going on right now?
I don't know, but I think if they played, if they had a guy who could rap and they played it when he took the mound, I think it would go off actually.
Mark Borchard,
it's something to think about if you're in charge of like the sound at Busch Stadium, maybe.
Mark Borchard, baseball nerd, spitting rhymes. Worst, by the way, when you back them. Just again, bizarro exercise. If you back this pitcher, you're right. Sonny Gray 13-3 when he starts. Job 9-1 for the Tigers, or the Tigers are 9-1 when he starts. All right, talking about names that might show up again. Colorado Rockies Kyle Freeland started 15 times. The Rockies are 2-13 in his starts. You'd be down 9.25 units. He's the worst. Who do you got as worst?
Paddock from the Twins, minus 11.8 units. 4-13 the Twins are.
4-13
in his starts.
They got Paddock 3rd. Yeah, Keller in between. Keller the Pirates in between Freeland and Paddock. Is there anything to this or nothing really to this? Right.
Probably not much.
Okay.
It's probably mostly descriptive rather than predictive, Gill.
I would agree. Let's go to the umpires, because this is always nice. We see this year's stats. You have historical stats, and this is particularly valuable to people who like to bet totals. Where do you go for umpire assignments on a daily basis?
Well, I go to MLB.com personally. So what I'll do is I'll run the code every night, and the person who's at first base the night before is going to be the home plate umpire the next day. So it's really easy to do. You just you can keep track of it yourself.
So the umpire thing is a counterclockwise thing with umpires.
It goes first to home.
Yeah.
It goes. Let's see the clock. It's clockwise.
It's clockwise, right?
First to home. Look at it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you get your umpire assignments. You know who's behind home plate calling balls and strikes. What I have here for this year in terms of most reliable over umpires. So I'm not cross-checking with what the totals were in these games. I'm just saying when Tom Hanahan has been calling balls and strikes this year, Tom Hanahan, overs 12 out of 16 times he has been behind home plate. Lance Barrett, 11 out of 15. Shane Livensparger, 11 out of 16 have gone over the total when he's calling balls and strikes. Adrian Johnson, 11 out of 17 over when he's calling balls and strikes. And Andy Fletcher, 11 out of 18. So it's Hanahan, Barrett, Livensparger, Adrian Johnson, and Andy Fletcher. Again, does this mean that their strike zone is thimble-sized and it's tough on pitchers? Maybe. Any of those match your historical numbers?
Yeah, and just to give people context, what I did, it's from the first game of 2023 to the current game last night. So the two guys that were in the list there that are over umpires, according to I have I compute an ERA based on strikeout percentage and walk percentage. So Andy Fletcher is actually sixth highest to the over umpire, 9% from a run production standpoint, which is significant because you think about it, if the total's set at 8 and he's 9% better, we'll round it up to 10%. It's going to be almost a full run greater. And then if you look at conversely to the under guy, let's say an under guy is like 90%. I mean, that's almost 2 runs based on the umpire. And I think that if you watch it and you say, well, that's kind of drastic, but I think if you watch some of these games, it makes sense. When they're giving the particularly the low pitch, but any pitch, if they miss a call, the next guy hits a home run. I mean, that's
how many game bets? I mean, we can't even count, right? I can remember betting a side in baseball. You tend to remember the ones that go against you, right? I try to be good about processing when a call goes for me, but certainly you remember the ones, just the scenario you're describing, Mark. A low pitch that would have been strike 3, right? That would have gotten you out of an inning, and then the next pitch is out of the park. It'll drive you crazy. But that's what some of these umps are good at. They're great at that stuff.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it's gotten better, though. I just got to share this because for whatever reason, Dave Parker, who passed away recently, rest in peace, I was watching the first inning of the All-Star game where Nolan Ryan was a starter. It was Davey Lopes, then Dave Parker. And, man, they gave Ryan some really good, like, gosh, if that would have happened today, all hell would have broke loose.
Dave Parker, the Cobra, rest in peace. Broke my heart as a little kid when the Pirates won the World Series against the Orioles. Okay. So then back to the umpire. So you say that based on the top 5 I gave, the one that matches historically as an over ump is Andy Fletcher of that group of 5?
Yeah, that one, he's kind of an under guy. That's probably the best one. Yeah.
All right. So that's just as a handicapping thing. If Andy Fletcher is behind home plate, you have a pre-flop notion on playing the under, maybe gives you pause. In terms of the under umps, the more powerfully under umps thus far this season, half the season, here in quarter 2, or through 2 quarters of the season. Austin Jones, 8 out of 9 under. Nick Lentz, 8 out of 9 when he's been calling balls and strikes under. Corey Blazer and Scott Berry, 7 out of the 8 games they've umped behind home plate have gone under. And then Derek Thomas, Chris Siegel, Charlie Ramos, and Eric Backus, 6 out of 7 under. Any of those names match historical numbers?
No, it's really surprising. Bill, the 2 for me, Bill Miller and Doug Eddings, but particularly Bill Miller. He's
7 out of 9 under. I missed him. So Bill Miller.
Okay. So that's the one where and then the worst thing is, and this is why I usually won't play totals before I know who the umpire is, because the worst thing to do is to play an over, and you don't know who you're rolling the dice,
and then Miller
you get,
shows
it's
up.
Bill Miller. Oh, great. Shoot.
And so he must have, because if he's matching historically, he must have the widest strike zone going then. Like, that must be it. He must be calling strikes that are well out of the strike zone often.
Yes. Yeah. And so he's got one of the highest strikeout rates, and then a low walk rate, which he's got the third highest strikeout percentage. The first guy's a guy named Jacob Metz. He's got limited data, but 23 games, and then Mike Estabrook. That's from a strikeout percentage standpoint.
Estabrook. We've mentioned him many times before, as I recall. All right, so those are 2 names to remember. Bill Miller as an under ump, and then as Mark mentioned, Andy Fletcher doing what he does best as an over ump thus far this year. Besides the division stuff that we talked about, give us a Basewinner, stance or a bet or 2 where you're like, I firmly believe based on my numbers that these things are true. So you mentioned Judge is winning MVP. Don't believe the Cal Raleigh stuff. Are Skeens and Skubal, like, are they going to be impossible to beat for Cy Young based on your numbers?
I think so. I think that, Skeens maybe not, though. Wheeler's pitched really well to the point where there was a lot of advanced modeling I had 2 games ago with the Padres, and I took the Padres on the run line, and he was shut down. He allowed some hits, but And so you think you keep watching these guys. Well, he's got to break at some point, but I think Wheeler's got a chance for the National League one. The Scooble's just head and shoulders, I think, above everybody else. But the one thing that I thought was
even Max
interesting,
Fried, even Max Fried.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think Scooble's his advanced numbers are so. The one guy that's actually ahead of him on the base winner ERA is Logan Gilbert. So maybe him, but like I think it's Scooble's to win if he continues to do that because the team's a good story too. And the one thing, and I haven't talked about this much with Gilbert, but I came on your show. Oh, this is that might have been the game before he got hurt. Said, man, I really like Gilbert's numbers. He's really good. He's a workhorse. He doesn't get hurt. His standard deviation is low, and it is. And then the next game, he gets hurt and was out for like a month or so. And I just hope that it's not the same situation as Corbin Burns, where he had he ends up getting a cortisone shot in his shoulder and then he blows out his elbow, which that might have been, for me, Gill, personally, it might have been the most disappointing thing that's ever happened in baseball to me, because
Really?
he lives down the street from me. And so really rooting for him, and I thought that was a big gesture. For he wants to be involved in the Arizona community here, and he turned down money to stay here in Arizona. And I thought, man, that's going to be really good. And so it's upsetting. The whole Diamondbacks thing is upsetting too, because they lost two of their best closers, as well as Marte. Marte was on the DL for I guess they don't call it the DL anymore. They call it the IL, right?
IL.
So
the IL.
Yeah, but he was on it for a month too. So, getting back to the Cy Young, Gilbert's numbers are really, really good, but concerned about his health.
Give me the team in either the American or National League that if they sneak into the playoffs is most likely to make a postseason run, given the format of the postseason, which is best of 5 and best of 7 then.
Well, from a sleeper standpoint, I think those Mariners are tough, man.
Me too.
That pitching is good. The bullpen's really good as well. And, I have them today on the chart. I have them 5th in baseball from an offensive standpoint. So I think that would be a team that you could get value on in that particular
That's amazing to me.
league.
When I made my July bet, you and I had not talked about that, and everything you've said to me after I made that play, Mariners 20-1, most wins in July, has just corroborated, and I feel great about it because I had the same opinion. Batting better than average, you're saying it's even better than that. Bullpen better than average, and starting pitching sneaky good. Like Gilbert's numbers, his advanced stats are way better than his actual numbers, right? I agree with that.
Yeah, that was what was funny about. I was handicapping the game today. I can't remember off the top of my head who he's facing, but like his ERA was worse than the guy he was facing. But like I said, he's got the best base winner ERA in baseball: strikeout percentage, walk percentage, ground ball rate, and. No, he's facing this guy from Kansas City, Noah Cameron, today,
Yep.
And some people are high on him, but the xFIP number, whatever, advanced metric number is like almost 3 runs more for Gilbert, although the other guy has a better ERA. So you don't really see that much. So if you guys are listening to this before the Kansas City-Seattle game with Noah Cameron, I think that the Seattle's a good idea.
All right, let's go to first 5 innings. Now, I get these. I used to do these manual back in the day. Like every night I would do like the first 5 stuff. Then some folks started, because you would think that this would be widely available. And OddsShark started doing this a few years ago. Then last year they didn't. Or at least I didn't see it, but they're back to doing it. So thank you to OddsShark for doing this, for tabulating the first 5 records. So this is just what we were going through before, but this is if you had bet a team each and every day on the first 5, whether favorite or underdog. And I'm curious, if this is something you think is sustainable. So the number one F5 team, this is just money line now. The number one first 5 team in baseball is... Mark, who do you have?
I'm going to take a guess because I I have first 5 records only, home and away, but the best home team's Detroit, so I'm gonna roll with the Tigers and say they're number 1.
They are number 2. The Tigers, who are 47, 28, and 10. Remember, there are pushes, obviously, in the first 5. 47, 28, and 10 now through 85 baseball games. You'd be up $725. If you're betting $100 units, you'd be up $725. There's one team better than that, the Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers are 40, 26, and 18, based on the fact that they were dogs many more times than the Tigers were. You'd be up 11 3/4 units on the Milwaukee Brewers. By the way, the Diamondbacks are third, up 6 units, just edging the Phillies, or literally like $3 behind them. The Phillies are fourth. Phillies makes a lot of sense because you think of the Phillies as a starting pitching strong team. Then it's the Cubs, the Yankees in 6th, the Angels in 7th, and the White Sox. There they are, the White Sox, the second worst team in all of baseball, the 8th best first 5 team. Not as dramatic as it was last year, but it's the same principle where the White Sox, God, will they suck if you bet them, for a full game. But if you bet them first 5, man, they're 29, 37, and 19. And because they're dogs in so many of those 29, you'd be up 2.5 units on them. But to the point we were saying earlier, what's that? That's 8 teams that are positive in first 5. The only other positive teams are less than a half a unit up. So those 3 don't even count, really. Rangers, Red Sox, and Reds. But that's it. Everybody else, you're losing money.
Yeah, and it brings up a handicapper's dilemma, too, because you're playing again into a worse juice, if you will, right?
Yes, straddle's bad.
The straddle, exactly. But you can kind of isolate it a little bit better. And so is that precision worth paying the price? And I don't have an after spending half of my adult life, I still don't have the right answer for you. I wish I would have done Arizona more this year on the first 5, though, because that bullpen's blowing a bunch of games.
Oh, the bullpen's brutal. The bullpen is brutal. What's interesting here again to me is it makes sense why there's so few profitable teams because of the pricing of first 5 lines. Again, the straddle, meaning the price between the favorite and the dog, is that much wider. So that makes sense. But as I look at these numbers, and I lost in there a second, the Brewers end up getting ahead of the Tigers. Why? Because in the last 10 first 5s, they're 8-0-2. So they literally are up 7 units in the last 10 games. That's how they got ahead of the Tigers. Here's what's also interesting. The worst first 5 teams in baseball. Rockies are the worst. They're worse than everything, by the way. They're down. You'd be down 21 units if you're betting the Rockies first 5. And again, if you're doing this every single game, something's wrong with you. Braves are second worst. So that was just like the full game money line. The first 5 money line is Rockies worst, Braves second worst. But first 5 worst 5. Guardians third worst. Would cost you 14.63 units. They're 28, 42, and 12 first 5 this year. The Dodgers are 4th worst. So a lot of us, by the way, bet first 3 innings against the Dodgers. I forget the gentleman's name who actually tweeted me the exact numbers yesterday on Twitter. But if you bet against the Dodgers first 3, you're way profitable. First 5, you're way profitable too. The Dodgers are 36, 37, and 13 first 5. But because they're such big favorites in so many of those, you'd be down almost 14 units. And guess who's 5th worst? The Mariners.
That's surprising. The Dodgers thing's surprising for me. I don't know. Do you have it broken down, home and away?
Yes, I do. Home.
Okay, so the what do you have for Dodgers home record first 5s?
19, 21, and 5.
That is insane. I look at that and sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, I hope I don't have a bug in my program, but it's like that's exactly what I have too. And that is absolutely amazing to me. And this is coming from a guy. This is one of my pleasures in life is to watch dusk at Dodger Stadium, to have some kind of bet on it. But I usually like to bet the Dodgers. But I maybe I'm just timing it right, because it seems like when I bet the Dodgers first 5 and that happens, they win. But that is really an incredible stat, Gill.
It's the worst home first 5 for this exercise purpose. Who to cost you the most money just at home first 5s? The Dodgers are the worst.
And then let me just piggyback off this, because this is a concerning number, and this is one of the reasons outside of the simulations that I run. And the Dodgers are number one in baseball by the simulations, but they still shouldn't be to win I wanted to say the national championship. It's not the national championship. It's the World Series. To win the World Series, they're like plus 230 in some markets, and I think that is absurd. If you look at this. BBK for starting pitching in the month of June. So this is like, hey, the team's supposed no first month jitters or anything. This is supposed to be the team, right? 0.51 for starting pitching, 29th in baseball from a just a command standpoint. I think that they're a false favorite for the World Series personally.
Who do you have as the favorite? Who would be according to your numbers?
No, they're the favorite, but like from a pricing standpoint, they shouldn't be. They're a favorite at like plus 500. I think I have the Yankees. Let me just pull that up because I can give you the exact numbers while I pull that up, Gil.
And the Yankees, again, say what you will, they're flaws. A lot of Yankees fans will tell you they're flaws happily, but they're in the American League, right? And so the American League is so much worse than the National League, right? So besides the Tigers in the American League, who obviously, Katie barred the door on the AL Central with the 12-game lead. The Astros have themselves a 7-game lead in the West, but I still think the Mariners are live there. But then, like the Yankees, as ho-hum as they've been, it's not like they're getting knocked out of the playoffs. Like to think of, because right now, if the playoffs were to start, let's just do that for a second. In the American League, it's Tigers, Astros, Yankees as division winners. And the wild cards would be the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Mariners. So for a team that's currently in that picture to be knocked out, the next best team is the Angels, 42-42. There's just not a team coming up to replace you. Now the Rangers might have something to say about that, maybe some other team, but it's just such a weaker league.
So the Dodgers, Yankees, and Tigers they're pretty close. So Dodgers 15.4%, Yankees 13.6%, and Detroit 11.8%. So that's pretty compact. And the Cubs are right there, 11.1%. I don't see this, and a lot of people that I respect are saying, the Dodgers are the 27 Yankees. They can't be beat. I think they can be beat, Gil. I really do.
Yeah. Well, we just pointed out those first 5 numbers are pretty amazing. Last year when we did this, it was the White Sox difference in first 5 versus game. That was the most amazing. That's still kind of amazing the way that the White Sox part like that first 5 in full game. But the Dodgers first 3 and first 5, I think first 3 they're like 31 and 30s. I can't remember the exact number, but they're just way below 500 first 3. But first 5, there you go. They're the worst home first 5 team, and they are the fourth worst overall first 5 team behind the Rockies, Braves, and Guardians. That's brutal. That is brutal. Mariners 5th, Astros 6th. Those are surprising also.
It's hard to. That's really hard to believe that. So okay. And I think they're a good team. I don't want people. You don't like the Dodgers. The Dodgers are a good team.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. But I think that there's teams
that feels somewhat sustainable for bettors, though, doesn't it? Like that's not a bad thing to think might continue until they're full steam, at least.
Well, if you look at their starting pitching, with the exception, I think, of Yamamoto, who inspires fear in you?
Nobody.
Does Kershaw? Kershaw does that? I don't know. Not me.
Not me. Of course, I'm not at the plate taking their pitches.
Although I do like the name Ben Kasparius. It reminds me of like the Coliseum and chariot racers. Ben Kasparius, the chariot racer guy.
All right, let's do first innings. Want to do first innings? This is super proprietary.
Yeah, we'll do that, yeah.
First innings, and this is, a lot of people like betting yes runs, first inning, no runs. Yerfy nerfy is what the kids call them these days. So Mark and I have sort of seized on pitching in the very first frame. So this is as, so what is it called? Granular as it gets. Not first 5, not first 3. We're talking just first inning performance. I put in a minimum of 60 plate appearances faced for this at the Q2 mark. This is for the whole season thus far. The single worst, I'll do the first 2. I might as well pair them together. The worst and the second worst pitchers, I'm going to do it by on-base percentage against.
Okay.
Who do you got? Who do you think?
I have Buehler with he's got 73 total batters faced, .452 OBP.
I have Buehler third. Again, minimum plate appearance is 60. Maybe if I change that, Buehler would change. But I have Buehler third worst. Buehler has a 439 on base against in the first inning. 1 and 2 for me are both Colorado Rockies. And I will need you to explain to me why they can't do better than this. Antonio Sensatella, worst, 449 OBP against. By the way, batting average against Sensatella in the first inning is 423. So Coors explains like some of that, but come on.
That's insane. Yeah, mine are close. I mean, 427 batting average. That's insane. And they continue to just trot the guy out there, and I think they can do better than that. You know, one of the interesting things that I've been reading, I try to follow the NL West as close as I can. They've built this altitude science center, like really close to where I live in Salt River Field. And I think, and I'm a big fan of track and field. If you don't know that about me, I do personally masters track, and I love track and field. And
what events do you do?
Well, I do the pentathlon actually. So I can long jump, I can throw the discus. The one event that I'm pretty lousy is the javelin. But I get for a 55. Of course, it's all relative to age, right? So they actually have divisions for 50 every 5 years.
Wait,
55
I know you want to talk about the Rockies. Can I just hold for 1 second? Hold on. What are the events you do? You do the javelin. You say you're not very good at that.
Okay, so it's the long jump. Yeah. That's the first event. Then the javelin throw. 200 meters, discus throw, and then the final event is the 1,500 meters, so close to a mile.
Which is your best of those 5?
It's the long jump by far.
Really? So what is the skill of the long jump, in your opinion?
You have to have speed. That's the most important thing. So the speed's very important, and then you have to have kind of timing and a little bit of I guess ability to take risk, right? So you just have to just go balls out when you go. So that's my favorite one.
It's no triple jump, no awkward jump, hop, none of that stuff.
The triple jump's really tough. Yeah. That's a tough one. But the long jump is just kind of you can get away with just running fast and just exploding off the board.
I would love to see you do this, man. Anyway, Sensatella was first. Guess who was second? Kyle Freeland, second worst. 441 OBP against, 397 batting average against in the first inning. So
yeah. So anyway, getting back to the thing. So I've noticed some people in track and field do way better in altitude relatively to the rest of them. So I think that you have to spend time finding out who thrives in altitude relative to and you would think that would be the biggest home field advantage. And to an extent it has been, to be fair, they've been profitable over the years as home teams. But it's not this year. But I don't know what they're doing with these pitchers. You think that they'd be able to, hey, experiment a little bit. You've only won 19 games, so
12th worst, Herman Marquez. Like the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, the best first inning. Number 2 and number 3 will not surprise you. Skeens and Skubal, second best and third best. Skeens, 222 on base against, 183 batting average against. Skubal, 226. OBP against, 190 batting average against. I'm doing this by OBP. By the way, the best batting average against is J.P. Sears, who's 164 against in the first inning. J.P. Sears is fourth best OBP against in the first inning. J.P. Sears of the Sacktown Athletics. And then Michael Wacha's fifth. By the way, I skipped one because I want to see if you can guess who's the best. First inning. Better than Skeens, better than Skubal. OBP against.
I'm looking at Wheeler. I don't know if you have I don't know if he's qualified for you.
Yeah, I did 60 as my threshold. 60 plate appearances against.
So you must have done this before his start because he's got 61.
Oh.
But that was, he started on Monday, so I don't know. Maybe you did it over the weekend.
Well,
but he's got 61.
Let me tweak
him and DeGrom are right over your threshold. They're right there. And so it would be him. I don't. Tyone's pretty good.
I'm trying to tweak my parameter here, see if Wheeler will come up for me. Yes, if I just reduce it a few, Wheeler and DeGrom are 1-2, just like you said. So Wheeler and DeGrom are the sneaky guys, just sneaking under my threshold. But if I raised it if I made Wheeler and DeGrom ineligible by just adding a few plate appearances, in the Wheeler DeGrom threshold, this guy ends up 6th. But if I raise it a few, this guy ends up 1st ahead of Skeens and Skubal. That I've mentioned him already on this show.
Shane Baz.
Shane Baz of the Rays.
You know what they call him, the Wizard of Baz. So how could you not bet on the Wizard of Baz, right?
I was surprised. I didn't expect that. And again, for what it's worth, it's not, by the way, first inning Yurfie and Nerfy bets should be based on other things besides this, but this is just one thing for your toolbox. But just to let you know, 219 OBP against Shane Baz in the first inning, 167 batting average against. So anyway, just some stuff to keep in mind. Others rounding out the top 5 of the best: Lorenzen, Ober, Rodon, Crochet, obviously a name you would expect to be there. So it's just pretty interesting stuff. When you slice down all these baseball numbers, because you can get really super granular with them, and you reveal some things that your naked eye doesn't necessarily see when you're watching night after night.
Yeah, no, those are cool numbers for sure.
Any before we go, any make-miss playoffs that might surprise us based on your numbers? Some random team.
I'm still holding out hope on the Diamondbacks, but a lot of that depends on whether they're gonna be buyers or sellers, because maybe they can pick up on the buyer side, if they can pick up an arm in the bullpen, then that would really shore them up. On the seller side, I don't see them. The one thing they're not going to get rid of Marte or Carroll. So those guys, or Moreno, they've got some people that will stay, but getting rid of Suarez, getting rid of a Josh Naylor would certainly hurt them. But I still hold up. Let's see what is my playoff percentage based on. So they've got like a 50% chance of making the playoffs, 47.6, and I'm sure you can get them priced as a pretty decent sized dog in the market.
All right, let me close it with this. I lied. Last thing, since you bring up Ketel Marte. Aaron Judge, we already said, is going to win the American League MVP unless Cal Raleigh does something so ridiculous and Judge gets hurt or stops hitting home runs, whatever. But it's going to be Judge. Shohei, not sure the type of pitching year he's going to have, right? And I feel like voters, I could be wrong, but I feel like voters might use this year as the opportunity, because they know if he, in future seasons, if he just has full, great, even very good pitching seasons to go along with his hitting, you kind of have to give it to Shohei every year. So maybe this is year. Maybe. By the way, he's still awesome, so maybe I'm wrong. But maybe there's an opportunity this year where Shohei doesn't win NL MVP, because who knows, maybe the pitching numbers won't be much in already a truncated season. I'm just play with me here, or just work with me. If that's the case, could Ketel Marte be a guy that, because I know he had he's been hurt, so there's he hasn't hit the at-bat threshold quite yet. He's just under that. But if he does, some of his numbers, like the on-pace numbers of his, are better than Shohei's, are better than Pete Crow Armstrong's. Might he be a long shot candidate, or am I just making up as unlikely a scenario?
Not at all. No, the numbers for Marte are really strong. In fact, so I mentioned for the model, I do last 500 plate appearances. So and I adjust for park factors. So taking that into account, number one in baseball is Judge at 8.7. So this is OPS converted to runs created. Last 500 plate appearances. Number one, Judge, 8.72. Number two, Ohtani, 7.93. But number three is Marte at 7.91. So he's out. Not only has he done good this year, but he's been able to sustain that for what I think is a reliable enough number so that we can use that moving forward. And for sure. And so a lot of that depends. There's narrative too, right? So the Diamondbacks, what a story that would be, though, if they make the playoffs. Everybody gets hurt on this team, and but Lovello pulls this off, and they go to the playoffs. And who's going to be behind that would be Marte. So no, I don't think it's outrageous. Depending on the price. What's the price at?
Oh, it's long. I mean, it's like 80 or something like that. Or last I looked, it was, but I'm sure it's way up there, even if it's not 80. No one's thinking about it, And people are thinking about Pete Crow Armstrong. They're not thinking about Ketel Marte.
And this Diamondbacks team is still good. Despite all the injuries and all the crap they've gone through this year, that offense is number 2 in baseball, right close to the Dodgers. So, and they've done this before. They've lost leads. They've come back at the end. They've exhibited the ability to score a lot of runs. And so maybe they can, despite the bullpen being poor, they're one of the worst 5 bullpens in baseball right now. But despite that, they might be able to just outslug people.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Mark, as always. Always fun doing this. Always a nice nerd ball dive into some numbers. We'll do it again Q3, and I'll see you on the radio side on a numbers game on VSiN, obviously many times in between.
Oh, for sure. It's so fun working with you. People, you don't realize that Gill, he's one of, he tries to be a tennis handicapper, but he actually is a baseball handicapper at his core, at his soul. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what birthed me. It birthed me, baseball betting. Tennis, man. Wimbledon is it's a different animal, believe me. Grass courts. Mark, tell us when the Bet Us show is once again. Bet US.
8 a.m. Pacific time, guys.
8 a.m. Pacific time. And what's the best way for them to access that? They go to your Twitter?
You could go to my Twitter. I tweet it out every day. You're on the YouTube machine. Bet US MLB show will get you.
All right, Mark Borchard, Bet US show every day. Wednesdays too, Monday through Friday, or just Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Well, I did Wednesday today because I filled it, but Wednesday is usually my day off.
Okay.
I reserve that exclusively for if you need me to do anything for you, you just hit me up on a Wednesday, Gill, right?
You're the greatest human ever. Thank you, Mark Borchard at Basewinner, basewinner.com. Thank you for listening on YouTube TV. We'll put it up in podcast form in case you missed it.